What's up everybody, my name is Steven Dos Rios. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be looking at 5 different drone maneuvers that I like to use currently to tell my story and just showcase my subject, landscape, whatever it is I've got in front of the camera. Alright, in no particular order of difficulty, the first one we're going to start with is the side swipe. Again, these are names I'm just kind of using on my own, so don't even try Googling it, you might find something else. So essentially with this one, you're going to have your subject in frame, and you could either track it or just showcase more of it as you're starting to paint the bigger picture of what you're showing. So in this case, either just move the drone left or right and make sure that you're using slow, continuous shots in order to draw in the viewer and tell the story a little more efficiently. Up next, I call this one the roundabout. So you've got your subject in frame and you're essentially just going to rotate around it, showing different angles. You can introduce a little more complex maneuvers to this one by not only just going left and right and circling it, but also by introducing upward or downward motion to give you more of a spiral feel. This next one is one of my favorites. It's the zoom out maneuver. Essentially, you're going to start pretty close to the subject, even on the ground, and this one it can be used to introduce a landscape or a setting. I like to draw this one out because I personally like to actually edit according to music, and so if there's a beat that's got a lot of intricate parts to it, maybe a choppy bass or a bass drum, what I'll do is I'll extend this shot for about 45, even a minute, 45 seconds to a minute, and that gives me enough time to play with the beat. So as I'm zooming out, I may actually jump cut on that scene according to the beat, and it just adds a little bit of a flair there, but also introduces the subject. The next one, the cinematic reveal, is also a great one to introduce your landscape. I like to use this one whenever there's a vast area in front of you, whether it's a mountain, a valley, a body of water. All you're going to do on this one is you're going to be moving forward with the drone, but you're going to start with the camera facing downwards. As you're moving forward, bring the camera up so that it is horizontal with your drone. And last but not least, the direct flyover. Now this one can be used going forward and backwards, but essentially you're going to be moving towards your subject, and as the drone is flying overhead, eventually before you get directly over your subject, you're going to be panning the camera downward. So there's a couple of things moving on here. As your drone is flying forward, your camera starts panning downward so that by the end of the shot, your subject is directly below the drone. But again, if you want to show a different angle, this one plays well whenever you've got like a hill or a valley that you're going to be coming over, or a ledge, and can also give more of that grand aspect to your video. Now, just a couple of tips. As you're shooting with your drone, make sure that you move slowly. Most shots, depending on how far away you are, in order to get that cinematic feel, you will have to actually move a little faster, just because the further you are away, the less of the movement you're going to see. But the closer you get, try to make sure that you've got slow, continuous movements. This is going to demand just a little bit more practice out in the field with your drone. But if you're shooting with DJI, as I like to, there's actually a mode called cinematic mode. So you've got cine, you've got normal, and you've got sport. Again, sport has its place in time. Cinematic is definitely going to give you a lot more control when moving the drone, especially if you're using it for the first time or you're brand new to this level of film. Always shoot in 4K RAW. It's going to be a bigger sized file, but it's going to allow more crispiness, more punch in your image quality, and you can always just play with more aspects of it in post-production. One big thing that I have learned also that I'm going to highly recommend is plan your shoots ahead of time and base it off of the weather. Depending on the time of the day, around midday, the light tends to be a little more harsher on the camera. So unless you've got an ND filter or something just kind of cancel out that harshness of the light, make sure that you shoot more in the afternoon, kind of like closer to the sunset time, or earlier on in the the twilight, kind of sunrise hours. This is going to really dim down the light a little bit, give you more control of the colors, which kind of leads me to the next point also. If you're shooting in cloud coverage, that's going to help as well. But the last point is shoot in manual mode. Right out the box, the cameras are going to be shooting in auto, which will select the white balance and the ISO and all these different factors. But if you shoot in manual, just like you might be used to with your camera, it's going to give you a whole lot more control. If you've got a lot of light coming into the sensor, adjusting the shutter speed and the ISO is going to give you a lot more moody cinematic looks. That's something that I personally like. So if you're more on the darker end, it's going to give you a lot more opportunity to change the colors that way, or vice versa. I personally like to shift it down a little bit more and kind of bring the exposure, pass down equilibrium, because again, if you need to increase the lights or change the colors, that's a lot easier to do with a more moodier cinematic color scheme or look in your videos versus blowing out the color while you're shooting. So definitely shooting in manual mode is going to help your image quality boost up 1,000 times. So that is all for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, let me know what you guys thought in the comment section, and we will see you guys in the next video.